Joining us now for the next part of today's show, Lawana Mayfield. She's a former Charlotte City Councilwoman, also running for at large. And for the purpose of this conversation, we should say she represented District 3, which is West and Southwest Charlotte. And we've been talking redistricting the last week or so here in Charlotte. And you made the point. Your district, even though you're going to be running at large, your district, one of the biggest, busiest, most thriving districts in Charlotte.
Exactly. When I was first elected in office in 2011, I was representing over 130,000 residents, which was interesting and challenging in itself because the district is very diverse. But thanks to the final numbers for the census, it's grown, and over 10,000 individuals have moved into Southwest Charlotte.
Wow, just part of a growing, thriving city. I mentioned it, the redistricting thing. This week, drafts of the new maps for Charlotte City Council districts were released. We're showing the screen the three variations. And honestly, for most viewers at home, you're going to look at this and you're going to say, well, OK, what's the difference? I mean, but it does make a difference because it means you might change who you're represented by. The makeup of city council probably not going to change that much differently. I want to play a clip. Two of your former colleagues on city council get into a bit of a spat when it came down to making sure city council was representative politically of the city of Charlotte. Take a listen.
Why did you hold the vote before I got there, Mr. Graham? Answer that question. I was going to be at the meeting, the only Republican who was going to be at the meeting, and you held the vote before I got there.
It was the first item on the agenda, Mr. Draggs. You were
And Mr. Chair, you had the absolute discretion to change the sequence of the meeting. It was within your authority in order to have a representative of the other party there when the vote was taken on partisan issues related to redistricting.
Mr. Draggs,
it is slippery.
First, it was not slippery, and we told you exactly what we did and why we did it, and you said nothing, not a word.
Again, they were talking about whether or not it should be required that Charlotte be representative by Republicans and Democrats in city council, proportion to what they represent here in the city. Your take on how these district lines are coming down?
So it's interesting. It's always a different conversation when you're not there and a part of the conversation. If I were on council, then I would have shared my ideas and concerns regarding extending the districts versus when we look at the maps, because if you look at, again, District 3 alone, over 141,000, but District 1 and 6, around 115,000, where the districts are additionally, when they were created, the idea was around 125,000. The city has grown enough where it could accommodate 8 districts at this point, including the at-large members. The other challenge I have is anyone that paid attention, agree or disagree with my concerns and how I voiced my concerns, the voting records show that I am a policy person. As someone who was a chair, if I knew one of my members was going to be running late and it was an important item, I would automatically move the item down later into the agenda just to make sure that the voices are heard. Not a 10 chances you're going to be outvoted, but the reality is at least be a part of the process. So the discussion, there's some validity in it, but the reality is the areas that are represented currently by the only 2 Republicans that are on city council, and that's by electoral votes, are 2 of the smaller areas throughout the city. So there's an opportunity, and there's a very close percentage, especially in District 7, of the number of registered Republicans and registered Democrats, but that number is outweighed by the number of unaffiliated voters. We have a growing number of unaffiliated in our community that don't necessarily feel like they're being represented. And honestly, an 8th district could possibly help create more input from the community at large.
Do you think about the way it currently is made up, that 2 Republicans on city council, that's about what it should be as far as Republican districts? Keep in mind, overwhelmingly part of the city is Democrat. As you just alluded to, a large part is unaffiliated. Then about 20% or so, say, tends to lean more Republican.
I think for me, it's more about making sure that the representational numbers are more accurate, because people change party affiliation all the time. You have individuals on council and that have run for council who voted Republican for many years, but then when they got in office, they ran on a Democratic ticket. So people change which party affiliation that they have. A dream world, we wouldn't have party affiliation. You'll be able to just vote for the best candidate of your choice. And if there was a candidate representing a different party that you like more, you wouldn't just get a straight party ticket ballot. That's not the reality that we're living in today. So today it's a question of how do we make sure all of our residents have an opportunity to make sure that their voices are heard and they get a chance to at least, especially in the primaries, because the primaries are when most of our elections are won, give them a chance to vote for the candidate of their choice. But I think we have some wiggle room in how the districts are redrawn, because there's a big gap between 141,000 and 115, and that needs to be addressed.
You've run now several times with mixed results after this last election.
Yeah.
Some people might say, why on earth are you running again?
Because I love the city. That's really what it boils down to. I love my city. Yes, I ran for a different seat. When I first ran in 2011, I went to the community and I told them, give me 8 years. Because honestly, I am not a fan of one person sitting in a seat through perpetuity. If once you get in, you learn, you grow, you identify other opportunities, you open the door for someone else to come in with new ideas and energy, but you're supposed to continue moving forward. I chose to move forward. It was a very close race when we go back and look at it, considering I was going from district to at-large seat. But even at that, even in 2021, you're still seeing the fruits of the work, that the foundational work that I laid when I was a district rep. I still have people calling me today and have throughout the last year and a half needing assistance with city council related issues. The community still needs a voice and representation. So I'm coming back to say, hey, if you all would give me the chance to continue to serve you, then I will step into that challenge and give it my all as I did for 8 years.
All right, Lawana Mayfield. Ms. Mayfield, thank you as always. We appreciate it.
Love joining you. Have a great day.
All right, more Flashpoint after this.